Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Mr. Steve Stockton. Yes, you have again decided to make your way into the darkness and awaken me from my slumber for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yeah, I've been sleeping for so long. I really do need to feed. Absolutely delicious. And now that I feel like I am revamped and Mr. Stockton has released me from my shackles, it is once again time to take a walk into the darkness known as the Dogman phenomenon.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, once again, you have tuned in to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. The legendary Steve Stockton from Missing Persons Mysteries has made his way through the werewolf and dogman infested forest to sit down and get the late night fire nice and roasty for us as we once again read some chapters from the Midnight Society book in an attempt to figure out the madness that is happening with missing people near cave systems in the national forests, modern day and prehistoric predator behaviors, unknown vocalizations, strange hyena, baboon, and wolf-like creature sightings. Mr. Stockton, what have you been up to, my man?
Just trying to stay warm here in New England. This cold snap not hitting us as hard here as it is down south. They got snow in Florida and places like that. And I made a wisecrack last time about Florida winning the Stanley Cup. Well, now maybe they've got some ice to skate on down there.
I know, right? And it's not good because obviously, well, it's going to destroy a lot of citrus. But on a humorous note, like you said, when they were like, oh, it's so cold, I'm like, man, I am from New England. It is not cold. Your version of cold down there, come up here, like Steve and I were saying. Tonight is supposed to be like -9 degrees. And right now it's, like I just said, 8.5. Okay, it went down because I believe I told you 9 degrees. All right,
so yeah, it was -1 when I woke up this morning around 7 o'clock, and right now it's 9 above. So I'm ready for springtime or warmer weather. Anyway, I lived in Florida for a while and didn't really suit my taste, but I'd like to be there now in the warmer part of it. I'd like to be in Key West.
I know, right? It's funny though, because I feel like Well, just as we stated with the frog, I don't know if I told you about that, literally freezes for 7 months, comes back to life. Well, same thing with sharks that live for 400 years, cold water. I mean, we're up here in New England, so we're pretty much frozen all the time. So we're going to stay more youthful, you know what I mean? But when you get down in that baking sun all the time and stuff, I feel like it takes the toll, you know?
Yeah, really. I've lived that last winter that I spent in Tennessee. It's been 21 years ago now. I was so cold, and it was like 18 or something, which was cold there. And I thought, I'm never going to be cold again. And I kept to that for a while. I lived in Florida, and I went from the Orlando. I was working for Nickelodeon at the time as a live show production manager. And then I ended up going to Las Vegas, and of course that's in the desert. And that does get cold in the desert at night, but not the sphincter clenching cold that we have here. I hope I can say that on your show. And then ended up going to Portland, Oregon, and it doesn't get as cold there as you think it would in the Pacific Northwest. Has its moments. It has a lot of rain, and I actually like the rain. I'm most creative when it's raining, but then back to the high desert in New Mexico, and again, it's hot, 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 and then it gets cold. There's place I moved into, they switched the gas over, and there was a gap day in there, and it got like down to single digits. So that's the coldest I've been in a long time. And then here I am in New England, so I guess I better get used to the cold at least part of the time. I do love it here, though. I really do.
Great stuff. And I mean, same thing. It definitely is a preferred taste if you're up here. But the thing with the cold, though, as well, I mean, we don't really have these crazy spiders and snakes up here, etc. And we also don't really necessarily have a lot of the mold problems that some places, that are super hot and damp all the time. Like I have friends in Florida that complain that they know so many mold issues that occur all the time, and they got all these bugs and insects that want to burrow inside of you.
Yeah, had that in the desert. Growing up in Tennessee, I saw one black widow spider my entire life. And then the first day I got to Las Vegas, I had 5 or 6 of them in my garage. So you keep the black widow spiders. And then in New Mexico, in that desert, you've got the hantavirus, and you've got a lot of black widows out there too. I reckon they love the heat. But the only thing here that I don't really care for is the ticks.
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Juggers? Is that what they're called down south? They're like these little
chiggers.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, you get in a chigger bush, you'll know it. You'll break out in a rash all over. Get chigger bit.
Oh, those are just as brutal as ticks, aren't they?
They don't carry Lyme disease or Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but other than that, they're annoyance. Another thing I had to deal with here that is new to me is fruit flies. Never bothered with those. Last year, I couldn't leave my bananas out because they'd be covered with fruit flies.
So annoying too. And they somehow just go everywhere. But actually, a funny little remedy for that when I used to work in restaurants that didn't want to, go the proper route. If you take like grenadine or fruit or something and you put it in a cup and you put a little bit of soap in there, and then on the top of the cup, you put plastic wrap or tin foil and poke little holes in it, they'll just dive right in because they smell like
and I'll have to try that in warm weather.
Yes, it really does help, my friend. And it's not one of those things where you have to put like a huge fly tape on your ceiling where it looks unappealing.
Yeah, we got a little thing that plugged in that had a ultraviolet light or something like that would attract them. And it had a little sticky board behind it, and they'd get stuck on that. But they're still fly all over the place in here.
No.
But yeah, this cold weather made me think of the band Three Dog Night. That was an actual thing. They talked when it was cold. You would judge how cold it was by how many dogs you had to put on your bed to stay warm. So maybe this is a 3 Dogman night here.
That's an
or 3 werewolf night. I don't know which one I'd prefer.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard ultimatum right there for sure. So before we start diving into some of these gnarly encounters, what else have you been up to in general? I mean, to the audience, everyone knows who Mr. Stockton is, so there needs to be no update.
My reputation precedes me, for better or worse. Still keeping on with missing persons and mysteries. I had another video come out today about people that disappeared from their workplace. I've got a Vanished Without a Trace series that I'm doing, and that was one of them. And then over on Tales Untold, working on a new series over there called the Appalachian Mysterium, and I took like mysteries in a museum and put that together. So these are legends and folklore told in a folksy, immersive storytelling format. So hopefully people enjoy it.
Great stuff right there. And we always know how busy you are. And actually, I've told Steve this numerous times. And if you do listen to our previous episodes and even any of my work, I mentioned this. Mr. Stockton actually helped me really look into some cases that he had covered that fall into the areas and the things we look at over here. So, yes, we both cover missing people, but Steve covers a much broader range of missing people, meaning I look into the cases where, okay, you have some strange hyena sightings here, you have the cave systems and the national forest, people missing right here. All right, where is this? Is this animal oriented? Is this human oriented, etc.? But like you just said, people just legit vanishing out of the workplace. I've heard strange. Actually, I believe it was on your channel. Somebody that was riding a bus, and same thing at the next stop.
Yeah, that was up here in New England in the Bennington Triangle. Guy was on a bus. They saw him get on the bus. He didn't get off anywhere that the bus was. He just wasn't there anymore. All his stuff was still there. People saw him, and then he just didn't. There's some strange disappearances up there in the Bennington Triangle. A lot of strange creature reports up there too. More along the lines of, I think, Bigfoot, but might be some dogmen up there too. But there was one that I covered where I was just talking about it. I made a video, separate video about the Bennington Triangle. There was one where a stagecoach, so that gives you the era this happened, got stuck in the mud while they were trying to get the coach freed. Some large hairy creature came running out of the woods, looked in the window at the people, screamed, turned the stagecoach over, and ran off back into the woods. So, that's, I love being around where stuff like that happens.
Great stuff. And yes, absolutely terrifying because, again, like I said, I tried to look into things that could be dogman or animal related. And, well, there is no way a dogman or animal just came onto this bus with all these other people not seeing it. And, like you said, people vanishing out of work. Because if you're in a whole entire workplace and a dogman or some sort of huge bear comes in, well,
yeah, they probably see that. I think those are probably foul play, some sort of human abductions. But again, anytime anybody can absolutely disappear with no trace, it's a strange thing. Whether it's human predation, animal predation, or in a lot of cases, something supernatural. And there is a very supernatural element to a lot of these. Albert Ostman's story from the 20s about being captured by a family of Bigfoot. If it happened then, it can happen now.
yeah, absolutely great stuff. And that actually rung a bell in my brain because since I was 11 and the last time I saw Autumn Williams on TV, she was super important during my childhood. Like I'd mentioned to you, Linda Godfrey and Jody and Monster Quest back when I was super 11. Well, same thing with Autumn Williams. And talking about the whole strange disappearances, well, we did as much research as possible to figure out if she was okay, what happened to her. And, well, people had basically bullied her, took her information as their own, gave her no kudos, and pretty much forced her out of something that she created, more or less. And she just vanished. And I had never been able to find her until just recently. I did not get to speak to her directly myself, but somebody we know that ended up seeing our video and such and speaking to one of my co-hosts knows her mom very well and that she's okay. So
good to hear that.
yeah, she just vanished though, my friend. She was so prevalent, but then if you type her name in on the internet now, again, nothing. All her Sasquatch stuff is gone pretty much, except for her link to her book and then a couple of her YouTube links from like 2012. So again, strange, bizarre, just where'd she go?
It happens. I made one video about YouTubers who disappeared, and some of them very strange circumstances, like Kenny Veach and MK out there in the desert. But then there's some that just got tired of doing what they were doing. Maybe had hundreds of thousands, even millions of subscribers, and just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. Then they just disappeared, didn't update their channel anymore. So everything is not nefarious or cryptid related, but it can be.
Yes, and like you said, it's just bizarre though. You would think potentially somebody like a family member would be like, oh, so and so is done with this channel or something. But yeah, no, there's so many of those, and yeah, straight up bizarre. But well, you most likely, because you are an excellent researcher and such, you've probably come across to all these. I'm very optimistic. You've heard of these, but there are some pretty, well, not so publicized encounters. And last time we spoke about the Dirty Stash and World War II and the SS, well, werewolf supposedly. And we are going to touch on one of these encounters right around that time frame again. And guess what? We got more of them. So who knows? Next time Mr. Stockton and I link up again here in a few weeks, we might be covering some more. But if not, well, we're going to continue pushing out stuff. So at another point in time, you will hear more. But yes, World War II, 1940, Devil's Bridge, Wales, United Kingdom. And most people, United Kingdom, England, yes, okay. A small group of soldiers are walking underneath the bridge when they see a strange figure ahead of them in the darkness. After repeatedly calling out to this figure and getting zero response, one soldier is told he must walk forward to the figure and figure out what is going on with this person. As he approaches, to his horror, he sees a man like wolf. Baffled, he's trying to come to his senses as if this is what he's looking at. And sure enough, he sees pointed ears, glowing red eyes, and this thing lunges at him and violently starts attacking. Screaming out in pain, the man's squadron bolts over to try and help, causing this strange beast to dash off. The front of the soldier's outfit was almost completely ripped off, and he had large claw marks all over his chest, with also what seemed to be large bite marks on his shoulder.
Wow, that was frightening.
Right? What do you think about that, Mr. Stockton?
I haven't heard of that one in particular, that case, as to my knowledge. I've covered so many of these things it all kind of gets jumbled up in my head sometimes, but I love those stories. Not for the people, not what happened to the people, but I like hearing the recounting of it, and just for the unusualness of it, just for the cryptid nature of things. And I've been on some shows where they talk about werewolf and Dogman in particular in the UK. Truth Proof with Paul Sinclair. He's got a lot of research where he talks about these things, and it blows my mind. And England's a very small place. I think it's about the size of Rhode Island or something like that, the whole country. And yet they've got these strange beasts and creatures over there. And then in other parts of the UK, you have the moors. Always something weird happening on the moors. And love here. They have big cats. They have don't really think if they have a Sasquatch like being. Maybe they do, but they hear a lot about. They like to think of it as a werewolf and not a dog man. But I think in a lot of these tales, it's eternally interchangeable because if you're being attacked by something, you're not going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, that's not a werewolf. That's a dog man." I'm just going to be like, "Hey, get me out of here."
Right? And Steve, stay on the moors. Oh, we're not on the moors anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That terrorized me as a child. And honestly, yeah, there's a little bit that might be a tad outdated in certain spots, but that opening scene.
Yeah. American Werewolf in London. That was just such a classic film.
And you want to talk about being scared? Yeah, imagine that. The moors, right? First off, you're not paying attention like bozos. And you're on the moors where you just were told to stay off the moors. And your buddy is, well, getting attacked by this enormous beast. And what do you want to do? Run. But then you can't, and you come back, and just the whole sight of all that. And I love how they show you just enough, but not too much where anything looked really bad. It was a lot of the mind play too. You're like, wow, brutal.
Yeah, a lot of Stephen King likes to say the shape under the sheet. He said, whatever I could conjure up, it's not as bad as what your imagination sees under there. He says, I'll show you the sheet with the shape, but you've got to lift it back in your mind and see what's under there. And I like that. And that was that movie came out in 1981. That was the year I graduated high school. 4 years before my wife was born. But that was just for the special effects. It was groundbreaking at the time, and I saw that in the theater on the first release, and just it was just fun. It was a seminal work, I think, in werewolves. A real at that time modern for that time updating of the werewolf legend.
Excellent.
Compared to Larry Talbot and Michael Landon. I was a teenage werewolf and some of those things. It was nice to see it updated and to see the change, the way it was portrayed in the film. It hurt to watch.
Yes, it really did. And before I make a funny reference on a movie I love too that really had no sort of horror aspects to it, I have been informed from numerous people that the pub in American Werewolf in London is actually a real pub, not
The
necessarily.
Slaughtered Lamb, I believe,
Yeah,
was the name of it.
and they actually would gather there, and people still do, and did have strange sightings of things out
Yeah.
on the moors and such. So a little bit of actual history to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and remembering that name of that won me a trivia contest a local video store was having back in the 80s. I got like 5 free rentals or something. The question that week, what was the name of the pub in American Werewolf in the Slaughtered Lamb? That always stuck with me.
That's awesome. My face hurts from smiling right now, man.
I'm really dating myself there. I'll be gotta add it up in my head. I'm 61 years old right now. I'll be 62 this year.
Well, if it makes you feel better, my friend, I was born in 1778, Massachusetts, so no worries. Still just a young one. But also a movie I loved growing up, too, because it's still on the topic we're talking about before we dive into this other gnarly encounter, was, well, of course, Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox.
Yep,
I
loved
don't know.
that one too. It was a
Yes.
comedy, but it's still for its time. I love any type of movie like that.
Yes, just when he rages out, and like I said, we're not talking about really the horror effect, because like you said, but it's just awesome. That nostalgia.
Yeah, I believe that was 85. That was the year my wife Nicole was born. Saw that one in the theater too.
That's awesome. Let's go. Well, on a very sad note, the new werewolf movies out, I do not encourage anyone to go out of their way to indulge on them until you can watch them on a platform that you're already paying for, because the new Wolfman was absolutely horrible in my opinion. And also, I mean, the werewolf movie with Frank Grillo called Werewolves was okay. And well, I don't know what I expected out of this one with Quentin Rampage Jackson called Operation Blood Hunt. Werewolves looked pretty cool, but that was about it. And again, just all horrible movies.
Yeah, there's a new one that came out last year called How to Make a Werewolf. And I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that that's really good. And then going back, what was it? Curse of the Werewolf, 1961. That was a favorite. And then, of course, the Howling movies.
Hmm.
There's so much. And there's a really good book that I've got. It's called Werewolf Under the Moon's Curse, a chronicle of the werewolf in myths and pop culture. Excellent read.
That's great. And actually, you rang another bell in my head. Speaking of comedies, do you have Netflix?
I do.
Wow, you got to check out this movie called Family Pack. It's a French movie that is in English about werewolves. But remember Jumanji? It's got the feel like that. They had this
Uh,
old wolf game that they end up getting sucked into it. And the werewolves actually look amazing in it, meaning if you were fat in real life and with a limp, well, when you're a werewolf, you have the pot belly with a limp and stuff. And yeah, it's comedic, but it's absolutely awesome. And I highly suggest you check it out.
Indeed. I would take that to heart. I'll check it out.
Yes, and you have to make sure to let me know your thoughts on it because it is a great movie for sure, my friend.
I will check it out. Always looking for something good to watch. Don't have
Yes.
as much time to watch movies as we did when she was pregnant, but the little guy, he will turn 5 months old on the 5th of February, but he keeps us hopping.
That's so funny. I can only imagine, my friend. No children for me, but I got a bunch of nieces and a nephew,
Yeah.
and yeah, it makes my head spin. So
Yeah, I wish I was about 20 years younger, but I'm thankful to be blessed with a wonderful little boy like Holden.
that's awesome. Yes, exactly. And age is just a number, my friend. I just told you I was, what, a few hundred years older than you.
Yeah,
So
that makes me feel better.
Good. All right, so now we're going to head back to Germany. This isn't World War II, but it's still in Germany, and it's a little bit of a newer encounter. So, not that older or newer ones hold any more merit. Just good to kind of split it up. 1999, 8 p.m. Three young German soldiers, and again, reason I like this is you have multiple people. Not that multiple people can't hold up a hoax or a lie, but if you watch any sort of law enforcement aspects, the more people that are involved in things, it's much easier for them to crack the case because somebody messes up and such, or somebody just doesn't want to fulfill the hoax anymore or the lies. So, not that one person's story or encounter isn't credible. It just leaves, some unknowns if nobody else is there because realistically they could hoax. But when you have multiple people now sitting down on it and it's an older event and nothing's really cracked on it yet, it just brings some more clarity and credit to the topic, in my opinion. But these young soldiers are checking out the perimeter of the base. They have been deployed in an attempt to figure out why the power has been malfunctioning, cutting in and out. As they are approaching the generator, the soldiers begin to hear loud, human like animal howls coming from somewhere off in the darkness. Wondering what it was they were hearing, they turn and begin shining their flashlights all around. The men are unable to see the culprit of the sounds, yet to their surprise, they see the large base generator has been savagely clawed so badly it was sparking and malfunctioning. The group of soldiers quickly radioed their findings in to their peers, saying the marks definitely looked animalistic. And Steve, as I'm reading this, because these are still book form that is in rough draft, I apologize because, well, you must have been like, what's he talking about? Because certain words like their fighting are supposed to be their findings. But yeah, I apologize about that.
Yeah, it happens.
So what do you think about that right there, man?
That's another, and then like you, I like the one where there's multiple witnesses. Kind of puts me in the mind. It's totally different cryptid, but the Dover Damon case here in Massachusetts, seen by about 4 or 5 different people over a couple of nights. But and like you, I like that where it's even though it's kind of a one-off, different people that helps because it's like the blind guy's describing the elephant. Uh, one guy had a hold of the trunk and he said, "Oh, it's got this long and skinny," and somebody else got the tail and the other one on the side. So they all experience the same thing, but they're describing it a different way. And I like to be able to take multiple witness accounts like that and sort of piece them together and get a better look at the big picture.
Absolutely brilliant stuff right there, my friend. And again, that's just many of the reasons why you are a legend. And when it,
Well, don't know about that, but thank you.
I mean, that's what a legend should say, correct? I mean, you're not calling yourself a legend, the rest of us are. But when it comes to all of this that is continually occurring, I mean, what really got you to take interest in the Dogman topic, I guess, more or less, and also what really captivated you to want to sit down more with myself here and just keep on trying to figure out what this is? Because, like I said, and you said, you cover a many different topics, and yeah, it's great. But also, what brought you over to my side, I guess?
Yeah, well, it started, with an interest back in the 70s with Bigfoot. And it just, for me, it was just a natural progression, a hairy creature out in the woods, whether it's a Bigfoot or a werewolf or a dogman. It's some sort of cryptid, something that's not supposed to be there, that's not even supposed to exist, yet it does. In all the reports that I've ever read about any of these hairy hominids, if just one of them is true, there you go. That's all you need to make it.
Yeah, that is again brilliant stuff right there, and that would make sense. I mean, that ties back to, well, kudos to my late mother. I mean, she always was into the creature features, and all my friends and such always ask me, "Who turned you into a vampire?" I've explained it before. I mean, growing up, my mom always thought witches were cool, but that wasn't really my swag. I always thought vampires and werewolves were cool. And I mean, when I acted and modeled, got stereo casted in that because people felt like my demeanor, my appearance was that. So I, just played into that. And it's something that I put into, like Star Fox as well. And I just have always found those type of things interesting. Don't get me wrong, I don't really like the slasher movies. Jason, sure. I mean, it's got a cool backdrop, I guess, and I've seen some of those, but not my thing. But, werewolf, vampire, creature features, whether they're cheese or not, are definitely something that I always end up
Yeah,
finding
that
myself.
that was me, and I owe it to my mom as well. Where I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, there was I think it was one of the local channels, WBIR, I believe, might have been WATE. They had a movie program called The Early Show. It came on at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they would have like Monster Week or Hammer Horror Week. And my mom would be like, "Oh, watch that one. It's good. It'll scare the pants off of you." I guess, bless her heart, she knew it would keep me in one place for an hour or two while she cooked dinner, and she didn't have to worry about me. Because if I wasn't sitting there glued to the TV, I was hiding behind the couch, peeping out and watching the TV. But she got me into a lot of things like that. Her family were appreciating the darker side of things, and I'm like you. I don't really care for the slasher films. I'm familiar with all of the different canon, the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens and this, that, and the other, but I like the monster movies.
Yeah, I mean the monsters are just so cool. So I mean, whether it was the Lost Boys or even the Goonies, like Baby Ruth, like just all those.
Yeah, Goonies is a classic, and Lost Boys. That one is just that's one of my favorite films ever. Is Lost Boys.
And that's what
That was perfect movie.
about the creature features, because again, my mom was the one that introduced me to the Goonies, and surprisingly, that's kind of slept on. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't even realize that. I mean, I've asked people that it would have been around the time frame they should have been watching it. They have no clue, and I'm like, wait, what? Come on, hey, you guys, like what?
Yeah, yeah, that was another one, 85, and saw that one in the theater and just fell in love with it. It was perfectly cast and the way it was filmed and everything. And then when I lived in Portland, I would go over to the coast sometimes where that was filmed and see some of those places. The Goonies house, they've had to put up a privacy fence because they don't want people visiting and stuff. Because people were, being stupid about it, going up on the porch and trying to take souvenirs and stuff. So, if you have something like that in your neighborhood or that you visit, something like that, be respectful. Let it stick around for everybody to enjoy.
Yes, and that's the huge thing, and that's what I've been really trying to just push out in general, the whole respect and giving people acknowledgement and stuff, and yes, just being nice and paying things forward. And the reason I wanted to also bring up some of those movies is because for this last part of the conversation, well, it ties into another great movie that of course you're gonna know. But before I say that, again, Labyrinth, awesome creature feature, huge fan of that movie. But the never ending story, well, there is a jet black werewolf like creature in that movie as well. And yes, it's a mythical movie and such, but again, terrorized me as a child, that whole
Yeah.
swamp scene. And again, a legendary movie.
Yep. And those are like that. There's ones that just imprint something on you. There was so like some of those movies on the early show, that was the first place that I was introduced to Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon used to scare the pants off me. We lived close to the lake, and after watching that, I refused to wade in the water because there's a creature down there you don't understand,
Traumatizing himself.
but in a good way. It's like then in the 70s. With Jaws, there were people that were afraid to go in the water after that, fresh water, but I digress.
That's like me. I mean, even though I'm supposed to be an adult, my bed's too low to the floor for anything to be under there. But yeah, I probably would still not put my feet near
Yeah,
it.
I don't like my feet hanging off the bed. I've got to have them under the covers.
You know what I mean? Even though, like I said, I'm supposed to be an adult here. It's like, what are you, 11? Well, yeah, to an extent. And, well, the first time I actually was introduced to a black and white film was Nosferatu, okay? And I would like to tell everyone out there it's a lost film in time, more or less, because they got sued to oblivion by, I believe, Bram Stoker, maybe?
Yeah.
Or
The Bram Stoker's
crew,
sued for
right?
that because
Because
basically they took his book and made the movie an unauthorized movie out of it. And I love the original Nosferatu. I've got I think it's the Kino release that's from Germany with the redone soundtrack and everything. With it's brilliant. That is just an amazing film.
isn't it? And I encourage anyone out there, if you get a chance, because it was almost lost to time, and check that out. Because would I always want to watch black and white silent films? No. But are there some great ones? Yes, check that out. And same thing, there are plenty of movies I watch, sound and explosions and all of that stuff. Well, they stink. You know what I mean? And check it out. It's absolutely epic. And I was also a big fan of the Munsters too, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Munsters and the Adams Family, but especially the Munsters. I would remember being out playing in the yard. My mom would come and yell, "Hey, the Munsters are on!" And I'd make a beeline for the house.
yes, Herman Munster is just so classic, and it's just legendary stuff right there. So now to dive a little bit more into the potential, I guess, darker sides, I've been working with my science team and some other great minds, and we would like to get this a little bit up more to a theory instead of a hypothesis, meaning everyone always assumes that a dogman or Bigfoot cryptids in general has to be something of nefarious basis, okay? But like you and I have talked about, and I speak about all the time about how hyenas are involved in this, and that I believe something is flesh and blood, which is what I dive into, and others work on the more paranormal and spiritual aspects of the werewolves and dogman, etc. But the thing is, everyone's always saying that they're out to get you. And there's a couple different ones. Sure, risk reward. If you and I are out and there's just one of them and we have a couple dogs with us, yeah, okay, risk reward. We are not going to be an easy bout for that, sure. But again, everyone always assumes, all right, this great white shark ate my daughter or the saltwater crocodile ate my child. Yes, that is unfortunate. But to nature and to an animal that's surviving, they didn't do that to quote unquote be evil. Okay. They did that to survive and it was a food source. Yet we are, oh, that evil crocodile. No, there's not any sort of evilness in there. Okay. That is surviving. We just, for some reason, think when we go out into nature, we're off the food chain. But we're seeming to think, all these supposed fatal dogman attacks on people can't be verified, meaning we are at the point where it's 50-50. Okay. I mean, you can't really find all the records and it seemingly doesn't really push in the line of existing. But people's pets and farm animals and things, yes, we can verify those have been occurring by something. But again, that doesn't make the mountain lion evil or per se this dogman or Sasquatch. So I'm starting to think a little bit that almost the majority of the cases we take seems like they're just observing. All right, I mean, you and I like to sit outside and enjoy the day. I mean, my squirrel loves to just sit outside, animals in general, stray cats around here rolling around with the sunlight, sitting there enjoying the day. So what if this dog woman or dog man is just sitting there on this hill enjoying that, and then you and I walk into the area? Well, obviously now they see us and they're going to be a little bit curious, and we are automatically assuming that it has to be potentially nefarious. But just think, we go in there, right, banging on trees all the time, shining the lights all around, putting out all these strange vocalizations, trying to, track these supposed creatures. Well, also, a lot of them are nocturnal. So, I mean, if you were resting, even during the day or at night, and someone starts slamming on trees near you and blasting calls over a huge speaker, I'd be pretty annoyed too, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
do you think they are all out for no good, like a lot of people think, or do you think there might be a little bit more, as I just mentioned right there?
I think they're probably like people that some of them are not as happy as others, and they don't have a filter, and they don't have any problem expressing their displeasure. But I think there probably are. I've heard the odd story here and there about people that were about to be attacked by something, and either a dogman or a Bigfoot ran out of the woods and saved them. Though, so it does happen. I think there are benevolent ones, even though they do seem to be malevolent. But I think that's the nature of the canine, if you will, the lupus in there too, a wolf or dog. That if you encroach on its territory, then it sees you as a challenge. It sees you as fair game. If it can catch you and eat you, it's going to, or it's going to chase you out of your area, their area rather. Brian Bowden, I don't know if you know him or not. He's got a story that he tells
Yeah.
about somewhere where he was at. He had to, I think they're out looking for Bigfoot. He had to answer the call of nature, and he stepped over to the side of the trail. And as soon as he started doing his business, urinating, a dog man came up out of the brush there. And he said, that I feel like that, I was challenging him on his territory. The dog man's like, why is this guy peeing on my tree? He said, I believe
Yeah.
if I had dropped everything and ran, it would have chased me out of there. But just standing there and finishing my business, he said I gave those dogmen something to talk about for a while. I was like, can you believe that guy? He came right up here and he peed on our tree, and we just let it happen. So I think there are, and I'm telling that kind of in the humorous fashion, but I think there may be something to that. That I mean, you think about the shark. Everybody's afraid of a shark. A shark will eat you and everything, but the shark doesn't see it that way. The shark doesn't think about, I'm going to eat this person, or doesn't have the shark doesn't have any moral thought or anything. It'd be no different than if you were sitting in your living room and a Big Mac came strolling through and you grabbed it and ate it. That's the way the shark thinks. It sees food and it eats it. It doesn't think, I'm going to eat this person, or should I do this or not. It just does. It does its thing. That's its nature. And I think that a lot of people forget about that. That animals follow their instincts.
Yes. That's great stuff, man. Like always, I always expect you to have these great answers. And well, as we start coming to an end here, my friend, what do you have on the horizon in aspects of what you're going to be working on before we link up again?
I'm doing the series "Vanished Without a Trace" over on Missing Persons Mysteries. Got several different videos lined up with that, and on Tales Untold, working on Appalachian Mysterium, which I took mystery and museum, kind of put it together. I don't know if I'm the first to ever come up with that word, but I thought Mysterium was a good word, a mystery museum, and going to take legends and folklore from the Deep South and kind of do them in an immersive storytelling fashion that I think will be entertaining.
That's absolutely epic right there. And yeah, you are always busy. And I believe I have all your links now that you want me to have. But if you have more that I don't have up in our video descriptions, make sure you send those over. Yes, make sure you check out what Steve's always cooking up in the oven, because he has a ton of great content he's always putting out. And actually, you're going to like this. One of my friends that follows my channel and is a big fan of yours said he could listen to you talk about peeling an onion and you would.
I've heard that. Somebody said I could listen to you read the phone book, and I actually found a way to do that and make it entertaining. There was I still haven't put the video out, but I took a phone book from like 60 years ago, and then a modern equivalent of it, and I was seeing what was still there, kind of comparing, contrasting businesses that had survived all that time and stuff. So, yeah, I think given enough time, I could make the phone book interesting. The biggest challenge, somebody said they'd listen to me read the British shipping report. I tried that. It's very dry. The seas are this, the tides are this, the winds are this. I don't know about that one, but I've been blessed with a voice that people like to listen to for whatever reason. And people tell me that have insomnia, that have chronic pain, that have PTSD, have fibromyalgia, whatever. If you can listen to my voice and it helps you relax, then God bless you. God's blessed me, and I in turn bless you.
Yes, that is absolutely epic stuff. And man, storytelling and data collecting is important. It is also something that, again, you ever seen The Witcher? The guy that's always traveling around with The Witcher? I mean, he's
Yeah.
telling the story. How do we know The
Yeah,
Witcher?
and that's it. I mean, I could research from now till next week, but if I don't put it in an interesting format, it's just going to be dry. I like the storytelling aspect because you can report actual factual data or as it's been reported and tell a story with it without making up a bunch of stuff like some people do.
Yes, beautiful stuff. Creativity, because sometimes people don't understand creativity and they're like, "Oh, Star Fox, why do you do this?" and etc. And it's like, because I'm sorry, I'm an artist, all right? And yes,
Yeah.
creativity is something that strives in what I produce. And
Yeah,
I don't,
I'm a raconteur, a storyteller, first and foremost. Now, with the missing stuff, that's, very factual. You try to get the dates and everything right. But with some of the legends and folklore, it's immersive storytelling. Sometimes you take a nugget of a legend and weave a story from that, but you're still keeping the story out there, keeping the legend alive. And you can tell by true stuff from the stuff that's just pure entertainment.
yes, you can. And is there anything else you would like to touch base on, Mr. Stockton, before we let you get back to things you need to attend to?
I believe that's it for this episode, Star Fox, and I again appreciate you having me on as a guest or a co-host. I think I've been
Oh, yes, not
elevated to co-host. I love it.
always been a host, my friend. I mean, I appreciate everything you do, and I never look at any of the things I do as just, something I created more or less, because all the great things we talk about, all the great things you just spoke about, and everyone else. That's why I always try to make sure to give kudos to people. I didn't just wake up yesterday morning and have a great thought on something. Sure, I had pieces of it,
Yeah,
but other people that work with me help, put those thoughts together.
yeah,
So yeah.
and I like that. You don't have a lot of knee-jerk reactions. I can tell you've studied this, you've thought about it.
Kind words from such a person that I value. So, to the audience, yes, for the early morning, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society. But yes, Mr. Stockton's links will all be up in the description. So, please go over and check what he's cooking up in the oven. And make sure you like it, you share it, because YouTube doesn't like us unless you like us. So you will see us, though, very soon. And as Steve likes to say, see you a little bit later down the trail. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man.
Oh, my pleasure as always.
Ooh, you legends, you, I do adore every single one of you. And if you did enjoy this episode, as well as the rest of my content and Mr. Stockton's, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feed the algorithm, and I will catch you very soon.